Welcome to Stephen AI FM. America at War, Iran under attack. Today, we're diving into a conflict that has absolutely exploded, going from a regional flashpoint to a full-blown global crisis in just a matter of days. The war between the United States and Iran. And it all kicked off with just 2 words from the U.S. president: unconditional surrender. Now, this wasn't some opening move in a negotiation. No, this was an ultimatum. And with that single phrase, the entire diplomatic landscape was redrawn, setting the stage for everything that was about to unfold. So, with an ultimatum like that, Washington has drawn a very, very hard line in the sand. And what that shows us is the first major consequence of this whole thing. Any hope for a diplomatic solution? Gone. It's been completely taken off the table, replaced by a demand that leaves zero room for compromise. And here's where the timing gets really critical. As you can see, right as the U.S. was issuing its final demand, Iran's new president, Masoud Pezeshkian, announced that other countries had actually started mediation efforts. It was a clear move to try and de-escalate, but it was just met with a total wall of refusal from the U.S. This whole thing isn't just about policy anymore. It has become deeply personal. President Trump didn't just demand surrender. Oh, no. He actually stated that he intended to personally select a new Iranian leadership, one that he decided would be great and acceptable to replace the supreme leader who had been assassinated. And the personal attacks just kept coming. The late Ayatollah's son, Mojtaba Khamenei, who was the likely successor, was publicly just dismissed as a lightweight. Now, language like that isn't just an insult, it's a calculated move. It's designed to completely delegitimize anyone who might carry on Iran's current leadership. When diplomacy fails this spectacularly, the consequences are almost always felt on the battlefield. The political breakdown triggered a massive military shockwave. And as we're about to see, this war is no longer contained. It has become a crisis on multiple fronts. So the first major escalation outside of Iran actually happened in Lebanon. Israel launched a massive campaign against Hezbollah forces there, including some absolutely devastating strikes on Beirut. The human cost has been staggering: 300,000 people forced to flee their homes in just 4 days. And this is the moment the conflict truly goes from regional to global. U.S. intelligence has now confirmed that Moscow is actively involved. They're providing Iran with targeting data on U.S. assets. We're talking warships, aircraft in the region. This isn't just support. This is a direct intervention from a world power, and it completely changes the strategic math for everyone. Iran's response to all of this? It was swift, and it was widespread. They began striking back at the Gulf nations that host American military bases: the UAE, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. With these retaliatory drone and missile attacks, the entire Gulf has now become a combat zone. Now, this rapid military escalation isn't just creating chaos on the ground, it's causing immense political fallout. So let's turn our attention to the Western alliance, because what we're seeing are deep public fractures emerging within NATO over how to handle this war. And believe me, this divide is stark. I mean, on one side, you've got Germany's chancellor, who has become the US president's biggest supporter in Europe, even earning him the title Hype Man. But on the other side, you have Spain's prime minister delivering this scathing condemnation, accusing the U.S. of playing Russian roulette with the destiny of millions. And this division is echoing even in smaller governments. Over in Northern Ireland, leaders are publicly attacking each other, with accusations calling each other everything from cheerleaders for war to being absent from key briefings. It's a really powerful example of how a distant conflict can just pour gasoline on local political tensions, showing that the alliance is fraying at every single level. So, with military alliances cracking and the conflict spreading like wildfire, the global economy is now bracing for impact. Let's look at the economic consequences, because this war is sending serious tremors through the markets, threatening a kind of worldwide economic paralysis. The most immediate flashpoint is, of course, energy. Qatar's energy minister issued a dire warning. Oil could hit $150 a barrel within days. He predicted a shutdown of Gulf energy exports that could, in his exact words, bring down the economies of the world. And this economic threat is being mirrored in the skies. The airspace over the Gulf, which is normally one of the busiest travel hubs on the entire planet, is now effectively closed to all commercial flights. It's become a zone exclusively for military aircraft. And this has a very direct, very human impact. I mean, to take just one example, over 100,000 Irish citizens are now caught up in this travel chaos. For those who are already in the region, their own government has advised them to simply shelter in place. They're literally trapped. But, behind all the geopolitics and the economic figures, there is an absolutely devastating human cost. We're now going to look at one of the worst wars tragedies, and also a pretty controversial theory that has popped up about the timing of this entire conflict. On the very first day of the war, a primary school in the Iranian city of Minab was hit. Over 150 schoolgirls were killed. It's an almost unimaginable number, an absolute massacre that has really come to define the humanitarian crisis here. Now, while at first it was unclear who was responsible, U.S. military investigators have now concluded that it is likely their forces were responsible for the strike. They do note that the school was located next to a compound for the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, a powerful branch of Iran's military, but the finding remains a catastrophic admission. And this tragedy leads us straight to what's being called the distraction theory. You see, coinciding almost exactly with the start of the war was the release of those long-awaited files related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. Prominent U.S. political figures have publicly questioned that timing, accusing the administration of using a war to bury a massive domestic scandal. So all of this leaves us with a final crucial question. When a war on the ground is being fought alongside a war for public attention, with accusations of misdirection and fake news flying everywhere, where is the real front line? Is it in the sky over the Gulf? Or is it right here, on the screen you're watching right now? And that's the latest from Stephen AI FM. America at War, Iran under attack.